Okay, so we're just out of the Kingdom Hall, and wow, I am still trying to wrap my head around the tonal whiplash from tonight's meeting. I mean, it kicked off with this whole beautiful theme of being gentle with our words, but by the end, the pressure was just turned up to 11. That gap between the message and the demands, it was something else. We've got to break this down. This quote right here, this is what the back half of the meeting really felt like. It came from the local needs talk, and you could just feel the intensity when the brother read those words from Revelation. We're going to get to how we ended up here, but just keep this image in your mind. This was the real conflict of the night. It felt less like an encouragement and more like a straight-up warning. And that's what's so jarring, right? Because the evening started in a completely different place. The official theme, the one on this schedule, was all about gentle speech. The chairman got up, and for that first hour, literally everything was about kindness, about being tactful, and how our words can be refreshing to people. It was all so positive. Yeah, the opening talk laid out these three basic principles. First, it was all about the right time to speak. They used the example of the brothers in Japan after that awful tsunami in 2011, how they knew people needed comfort and a shoulder to cry on, not a sermon. A really great point about empathy. Second was about using gracious words. You know, how a gentle tongue can proverbially break a bone. It can soften even the hardest opposition. And third, be refreshing. Share good experiences to build each other up, not to make yourself look good. It all sounded so reasonable, so gentle. And the chairman really leaned into this fire analogy to make his point. He even brought up the recent wildfires, talking about the smoke and bad air quality to show how destructive fire can be. But then he flipped it, saying when a fire is controlled, it gives warmth and light. He said our speech is just like that. It's this gift that can either build people up or completely tear them down. The whole focus was on control, warmth, and doing good. This whole theme of being careful with our words carried right into Brother Fritchie's talk on gossip. He used this incredibly vivid illustration comparing nasty gossip to throwing mud at a clean wall. The point was, even if the mud doesn't stick, even if the rumor is proven false, it always leaves a dirty mark on someone's reputation. What a powerful way to think about the lasting damage of words. And the practical advice they gave was pretty sound. If you hear a rumor that's just absurd, they gave an example of a sister who was rumored to be dating a boy she didn't even know, you just laugh it off. But if it's something that could actually cause harm, the direction was to go to the person, but do it privately, calmly, and only after you have your facts straight. Again, it's all about patience and reason. Everything felt so balanced, but then the meeting pivoted hard. And this is where the entire mood in the room changed. Brother Topping gets up to give the local needs talk, and the title was, "What level of zeal do you have for spiritual activity?" Let's just say that gentle, warming fire from the first hour was about to be replaced with a blowtorch. The talk laid out this very stark black and white choice. You are either hot for Jehovah or you are lukewarm. There was zero middle ground. Being hot meant you were zealous and energetic, but lukewarm, that meant you were complacent, comfortable, just winging it. He even said that being lukewarm was basically telling Jehovah, you know what? I'm not really looking for a blessing. And that lukewarm condition is what would cause Jesus to, well, you saw the quote, vomit you out. The stakes just got raised through the roof. To really hammer this point home, he used that story from Kings 2. And this number 3 is the whole point. The prophet tells the king to strike the ground with arrows to show he'll get a victory, but the king, he only hits the ground 3 times. The prophet gets furious with him, saying he should have done it 5 or 6 times for a total victory. And then the speaker turned it right on us. Are you only striking the ground 3 times in your ministry? Are you being lazy? Maybe even secretly hoping no one answers the door? It felt like a really direct accusation about everyone's personal effort. And the pressure wasn't just for field service. Personal study got the same intense treatment. The example we were supposed to follow was Jacob wrestling with an angel all night long, refusing to let go, even with a dislocated hip, until he got a blessing. And the question was put to all of us. Are you just winging it when you prepare for the meetings, or are you wrestling with the material, literally demanding a blessing through sheer strenuous effort? In that moment, the whole idea of gentle speech felt like it was from a different universe. Okay, so next up was the congregation Bible study. And, this part of the meeting is often where you hear some of the most unfiltered, off-the-cuff beliefs. Tonight's discussion was about Noah and the flood, and it definitely didn't disappoint. It veered into some, let's just say, interesting scientific and historical territory. I was really struck by this comment from Sister Loker. She made this direct connection between the flood and modern science. She claimed that the massive pressure of all that water, I think she even quoted a number like 2,000 pounds per square inch, would basically make any kind of scientific dating, like carbon-14, completely useless. Her conclusion was just, it's all negated because of the flood. She said it with such finality, as if it were a proven fact. Then you had a comment from Brother Kron, who tried to find proof for the flood out in the secular world. He brought up Mexico's Day of the Dead and argued that traditions like that are essentially a cultural memory of all the people who died in the flood, claiming the timing matches up. You hear these kinds of connections a lot, trying to link current events or traditions back to the Bible to make it feel more real. And this all raises a really important question, doesn't it? Are these just the personal pet theories of a few individual members? Or does this show a kind of folk theology that gets passed around inside the group? An unofficial curriculum that teaches people how to think about and dismiss science and history. It's in moments like these you really get a peek into the worldview that's being built, week in and week out. So, after the talks on gentle speech and fiery zeal and questionable science, we finally got to the announcements. And this, right here, is where all that spiritual pressure starts to meet the very practical, real-world demands of the organization. Let's dig into the fine print of what was asked of us tonight. First up, the money. The chairman announced a new resolution for the congregation's monthly donation to the worldwide work, and the amount was very specific. $1,292. Apparently, this was calculated at $11 per publisher, but the way this so-called resolution was handled was, well, it was strange. The whole process was just bizarre. So the chairman gets up and announces that the body of elders had already met and decided that the congregation could afford this amount. He presented it like it was a done deal. Then he starts looking around for a resolution form for the congregation to vote on, can't find it, and just kind of shrugs and says, oh well, we'll handle it next week. It just makes you think, why are you calling it a congregation resolution if the elders already made the decision? It felt less like a democratic vote and more like just being told what was going to happen. And right after the money part came the call for labor. And listen, this wasn't a general, hey, can anyone help out kind of announcement. This was an urgent, specific plea for highly skilled construction workers for the New World Headquarters project up in Ramapo, New York. They need people who can operate huge excavators and dozers, people who can install underground utilities, plumbers, specialized timber installers, steel erectors. This wasn't a request for volunteers, it was a full-on recruitment drive for a massive industrial project that needs top-tier professionals. So, what do you do with all that? When you put all the pieces of the evening together, you start to see this very clear but very contradictory picture emerge. It really was a tale of two meetings happening at the same time. I mean, when you just lay it out side by side like this, the contradictions are impossible to miss. The spoken message was speak graciously, but the subtext, the feeling, was don't be lukewarm or I'll vomit you out. We were told to be patient, but then told we urgently need your skilled labor for Ramapan now. We heard about respecting privacy right before that very public and confusing financial directive. And we were told don't seek glory, while at the same time being pushed to prove our zeal through more and more activity. And I think that brings us to the real bottom line, the most important question of the night. For the average person sitting in those seats, what's the real takeaway? You've just spent an hour being told to be a gentle, kind, refreshing person. But you've also been told your spiritual temperature is being judged, your effort is being measured, and the organization has an urgent need for your money and your professional skills. How are you supposed to process both of those things at once? What does that mix of gentle advice and intense pressure actually feel like, week after week? That, to me, is the real story of what happened tonight.